everybody, I'm Bill Kenny, and this is Josh Gossard, and this is Thinking Big YouTube channel where we review books, self-help books, real estate books, books we just love to talk about. Tonight we're talking about Extreme Ownership, Jocko, Willink, and Leif, Babin. This is a book that we've probably listened to and read a couple different times and put it into play in our own lives, and we're going to talk about a couple of the key points. So let's get started. You got probably 3 or 4 different things that you're putting in place already?
Yeah, well, quick overview of what the book is, right? So Leif, Babin, and Jocko Willink are Navy SEALs. They went to Iraq in some of the worst areas of the country when it was overheld by enemy troops. And they come back and share a lot of their leadership lessons learned on the battlefield in the business sector, which was really cool because they tell the story how it played out in wartime, came back and then said basically application to business. Yeah. And they took the lesson they learned on the battlefield and share how they helped CEOs, mid-level management with leadership issues
so they have a company,
in business.
They have a company called Echelon Front that is a business development or business strategic planning type thing. Come in and teach leaders how to lead through the skills that they developed when they were SEALs, leading in Iraq and whatever affairs they were in all over the world, their time in the Navy.
But
so
go ahead.
Yeah. So there's about 12, 13, 14 chapters, something like that, and each one of them picks apart a little leadership type tactic that they learned when they were in the SEAL teams. Like you said, and then they've taken their lessons and transformed them into business, business strategies or how to translate those lessons learned into the business world. So what would be, we got a couple favorites. Let's kick it off.
My number one favorite, of course, the name of the book is Extreme Ownership, right? My number one principle is there's no bad teams, only bad leaders. And in the book, they talk about buds, Hell Week, when they're in the most intense training. This is the Navy SEAL program, of course. And they talk about how there's these boat teams, and they start off on the desert. They have to there's like 5 or 6 men on the boat crew, and they have to carry the rubber raft into the ocean. And they have to go and do this, and they have 6 different teams. Well, there's one team that's consistently number 1, and that's Boat Crew 2. So Boat Crew 2 is consistently number 1, and then they have another team that's consistently last, Boat Crew 6. So they watch this thing play out over and over and over again, the drill. They keep running the drill over and over and over again. Boat Crew 2 is crushing it. Boat Crew 6 is sucking wind every single time.
What was going on is the losing boat crew, their guys were getting demoralized and were
pointing
always
the finger at each other,
having to do extra work. They had to, run additional miles or whatever they had to do, and it was demoralizing them. And no, I'll let you finish the story.
Well, so the guys there, so then the commanders there at the Buds training said, let's try something here. Let's swap out the leaders of Boat Crew 2 and Boat Crew 6. So Boat Crew 2 goes to Boat Crew 6. The winning leader goes to the losing team. The losing leader goes to the winning team.
Swap leaders.
Swap leaders. That's the only thing that changed. Everything else remained the same. And what they found was almost immediately, Boat Crew 6 started to perform better than they were. Boat Crew 2 continued to perform well, and Boat Crew 6 started to move back up, and I think ultimately they started to win. They started to win.
Yeah. And they moved way up in the ranks,
Yep.
So they were no longer anywhere near the end, or near the end of the
competition.
The competition. Yeah.
So it was all they did was switch the leaders.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things was that 6, with new leadership, made such a drastic move to the top.
Oh, instantly.
Yeah, but the more interesting piece was that 2 didn't fall that far back. Even with a subpar leader, the leadership of the team that he created carried on in his absence, which is pretty good. Which means that if you have a strong leader, that means that in the absence of that leader, that team's going to continue to operate effectively.
A strong leader will leave a lasting impact on the people they've led. So it's contagious, right? You
Yeah.
get in, you get a high-performing leader, they come in and they kind of set the tone, and everybody else rises above. And in the book, they shared when Boat Crew 6 leader went to Boat Crew 2, he had thought, oh, I've finally been relieved of this burden of leading this bad team. But what he found was when he went to Boat Crew 2, now he was held to a higher standard.
Yeah.
He had to raise his level
Yeah.
to keep up with the team that he led. And there was another thing that they shared that was the biggest lesson learned that day from Boat Crew 6 leader, which is realizing like, oh wow, like to watch Boat Crew 2 go, the leader go and then take that team and instantly turn it around because he thought that it was the team's fault. The team wasn't.
And what they found was they thought that maybe this leader was not even going to make it. He was not even make the SEAL teams. But they actually salvaged him. He became a good leader from the lessons that he learned by being in that better team and performing at a higher standard. He learned lessons and became a better leader. So it actually, it turned both of those, everybody there, on the beach that day, it turned them around. All the people being led got a better leader, and the guys that were already led well created a better leader. So it turned out to be a great management tactic.
So one of the reasons I really love that that principle, that lesson is as a father having kids. Well, my kids aren't showing up the way that I would like to see them show up. I reevaluate myself. Okay, how do I need to show up for them to get them to show up the way that I would like to see them show up? And I use that with my kids. I use that with my wife. I use that here at work with the team, with the people I lead here. Whenever I'm not seeing what I would like to see from them, I ask myself, okay, how can I show up better and move the team forward? And that goes back to extreme ownership. It comes back to me as the leader.
Yeah. I saw that in my past life when I worked in the private industry for a large company that everybody knows. But there were a lot of leaders for individual buildings, and there would be certain operations that would just run slower and behind, that their numbers would always be weak. And they would bring a new leader in, and instantly something would connect. Just, something that leader would do would actually raise those standards immediately. Just whatever their communication style was, or holding people accountable, whatever one little thing that they could bring would bring immediate success to those operations. And just like they did with the boat crews that day, you could swap leaderships and see an instant boost in productivity or results.
It's interesting how it plays out.
And
that's one of my favorite stories in the book.
So one of the chapters I really liked was the chapter on planning. And in that chapter, what happened was they had to, in order to get what kind of their last task, to be able to prove to their leadership that they were ready to go to Iraq, was to finally show that they could plan this mission out correctly. And they were having a tough time with it. The plan to plan was pretty much hundreds of PowerPoint slides, all the details, have different people communicate that, and that took too long, and it bogged him down. So what he came in as the leader, he said, let's not worry about that. The main thing for us from a leadership level is to make sure that we plan effectively and that each member of our team knows exactly what they're to do. And so let's make this thing as easy as possible. Let's communicate the plan to them. Let's let them execute on theirs, and then let's get in front of the leadership and show them what our plan looks like. Let's involve our junior members and make sure that everybody knows what the plan is, and that they can communicate it back. So that when we really get out there, it's not really so much about the plan, but it's about everybody understanding the direction of where we're going with this mission.
And the reason why that was so important was, like, war literally is life and death. And when you're out there on the battlefield and you need everyone within the ranks, it doesn't matter how senior they are, they need to know what's happening. Your most junior guy needs to fully comprehend what his role is and what's going on.
One of the terms they use in there is everybody needs to understand the commander's intent. So what's the intent of this mission? If everybody understands that and kind of knows where they're moving forward, then when things go a little crazy, then they still understand what the direction is going and how to make whatever individual moves they need to continue to move with the intent of the mission.
Yep, absolutely. And so, have you seen in your life or in your work experience where this has shown up?
Yeah. So without actually planning. So now in my business, we actually kind of maybe break down every quarter and kind of look at our plan and reevaluate our plan. But we pretty much have a plan going in, and then we reevaluate it. But if you don't have a plan, then pretty much any road you take is going to get you
somewhere.
Somewhere, right? It's not going to lead you in the right direction.
Maybe you'll get there, maybe you won't.
And even with the people that work under us, it's important for them to understand what our direction is, where we're taking this thing, what our end goal is, and how they fit into that scheme.
Yes, their individual role, how it impacts the overall plan.
Yeah, and as it changes over time, because it always changes, the market changes, people change, team members change, whatever, we need to continually communicate that to our people, what our mission is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So another one that I really liked was prioritize and execute. And in the book, they're telling a story about how they have a hole in this building. They're kind of trapped, pinned down in this building. There's an IED placed at the door. So they have their EOD technician place their own explosive onto the IED, and they set it up to explode, like, what was it, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, something like that. They put a timer on it, and they're like, okay, let's move out. So they go up to the rooftop, which is actually lower than some of the surrounding buildings. So now they have no cover, and it's nighttime, it's dark. So they have their night vision goggles on, and as they're walking, the seal that's in the front gets to a part, and he falls down through the building. And what it was a tarp there, and in the night vision goggles, it looked like it was the rooftop, but it was actually a tarp. And so the seal falls, they said 20, 25 feet, and he's not responding. So now they have the seal that's fallen, he's not responding. They have
multiple issues.
Multiple issues, like life and death issues. There are guys on the ground, he's not responding. They have the EOD technician's bomb that's about to detonate. They're on this low rooftop where they're easy targets for the enemy, and they're like he's talking in his head, like, was freaking out, like there's so much stuff that could go wrong here. And he remembered his training: relax, prioritize, execute.
What's the next,
number one
what's
thing?
the next
what's
step
the first step
that we
right
can
here?
do? The most important next step that we can make, and that next step was, let's make sure that we can secure everybody that we have here right now. Let's get secured in a situation where we can make sure that we protect us before we go running out there in the street and get this guy or wherever he is. Let's make sure we can, settle down, protect what's going on here. Then let's take the next action.
Yep. And that's every day, right? I mean, that shows up every day. That's focusing on that first domino, focusing on what's going to move the needle, like what's most important.
Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's knock these things down in the right order.
Absolutely. Yeah. I thought that was a really good story. Really good.
So one of the things, if you know Jocko Willink, one of his big taglines, or what he's known for, is extreme ownership. But the other thing is discipline equals freedom.
Yes.
And we've heard that, and I really love that. I love that quote because it's so simple, but it's basically a way to live your life, right? Yeah. So in the book, he talks about, some of the first choices you make in the morning will set the tone for your day. And I think one of his big things is he takes a picture of his watch every day at 4:30 in the morning.
Yep.
So when that alarm goes off, and he was trained a long time ago to have 3 alarms, which he says in the book, but the first decision you make of the day, if you make the wrong decision and go back to sleep, then you've already
set the tone.
Set the tone for the day. So he gets up at 4:30 every day and gets on with business. And what he's seen is the guys that show up every morning with discipline, they're the ones that rise to the top.
Yep.
So what the term means, discipline equals freedom, is that if you can be disciplined, and in my business, if I can be disciplined in my morning routine, that means I'm creating freedom for myself down the road in two ways. I'm prioritizing the time that I need to work, and I'm getting the most important things done, and then I have more freedom to myself. But I'm also, by doing the right things every day, I'm creating good habits long term.
Yep. So I actually see that a little bit differently because I resist discipline, and it's because
it's difficult. I'm not saying I'm good at it.
Because I want to have the freedom, right? I want to have. I don't want to be disciplined. I want to be able to hit the snooze button.
Yeah,
I want to be able to eat the cheeseburger. I want to be able to choose the this, to do the that's, but
whatever your feelings tell you, do it. Yeah,
and then and I pay for it in certain areas.
We all do.
My health is not the greatest. You can see I'm not the most fit guy. I get winded sometimes. I break a sweat too easily. If I was disciplined and the activities of having a better diet, being more physically active, I would have more freedom in my health. How I'm able to get around.
But on the flip side of that, you've accomplished some good things in the last 10 years. So,
absolutely.
So you don't do that without some structure and some discipline and understanding what the right things are to do. So we say that to ourselves because we always want to be we're chasing a better person or version of ourselves, right? But we have done some good things, and that requires discipline. So what I said for 2020 is, let me take baby steps on some of these big goals. Let me just focus on, I've got 10 things I want to do immediately. I want to get to the gym every day, or at least 3 times a week. I want to discipline the heck out of my morning. Let me just take some baby steps. Let me read 10 pages a day. Let me get more water in me. Let me hydrate. Let me be healthier about that. Let me make some small dietary things, and then all these other things, they'll build on that.
Yep.
So that's how I go about that. But having little disciplines is a good way to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
And long term, it will create the freedom of the lifestyle you want.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, is there any other lessons or principles from the book that you thought were important to share with our viewers?
I don't think we've talked about extreme ownership, have we?
No. You know what?
Yeah.
And it's funny you say that because we're coming up on time, and that's kind of how I wanted to close out.
Yeah.
I wanted to close out on that one, so I'll let you take it.
Okay.
Let you run with that.
So the book is all about leadership, and extreme ownership means as a leader, if something goes wrong in your operation or your team, you can point the finger at a lot of people. Maybe this guy didn't do his job, or maybe outside influences weren't properly planned for and messed things up. There could be a million different variables. But in the end, who's responsible for the results of that operation? It's the leader. It's the leader.
The leader is always
so
responsible.
What extreme ownership means is that each person takes ownership of whatever their group is or their team. Because there is always something that you can do. If one of your team members is not getting the job done, not making the grade, then that's on you. Like, you either fix that person or remove that person, because in the end, you're the leader and you have control of that. You can't say, well, he's not doing his job. No, he isn't doing his job. You control, you either bring him up to standards or you get rid of him, right?
Yeah.
That's what extreme ownership is. You take responsibility for everything that happens in your team. And maybe you might want to reiterate what happened in the book. That's a great story.
So in the book, they talked about urban warfare, the urban battlefield. It's a city street. You got buildings. The good guys look like the bad guys. Everybody looks the same, and it's just like chaos. There's civilians everywhere. It's just complete chaos. And he talked about in the book what happened was there was this firefight, and they ended up with a blue on blue. Military terminology. Blue on blue means
friendly fire.
Friendly fire. They killed one of their own guys.
An American hurt an American or Iraqi.
Coalition forces,
right?
Yeah. And so they had a blue on blue incident, and they shut all the operations down. The senior command shut everything down. They basically said, you guys are shut down. Do not commit any more operations until we get there and sort this out. Shut it down. So all the senior officers come in. Jocko's got his guys in there, and he's asking everybody. He goes around the room. And he's like, "Whose fault was this?" And one guy raises his hand and takes his ownership. He's like, no, it wasn't your fault. Whose fault was this? And the next guy raises his hand and takes his ownership. And he does that. He goes all the way through. And all the guys end up raising their hand and taking ownership. And finally, Jocko says, no, it was none of your fault. It's my fault. I should have done this. I should have done this. I should have done this. And he completely owned everything. Even some things that, you know, were out of his control. Mm-hmm. But he completely owned everything and basically went back to planning. Like, you know, we should have planned better. We should have communicated better on these things so this didn't happen.
Yeah, we need to let everybody know what the intent of this mission is. You know, there were certain parts that didn't understand what was going on here, or this group wasn't communicating. So that's my responsibility to make sure that everybody knows everything, communicates well, and that they're marching in the right direction. So I can always plan better, right? I can always be a better leader. So, you know, that's what I really love about this book. I really like the personal responsibility of people, and I think military leaders really have that down. You know, they have personal responsibility for their actions. And I've known some really solid people that have been in the military. I had a guy that worked for me when I worked for another company, was solid on planning, was solid on, you know, attitude.
Well, going back to that discipline, the military will put discipline in you for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And these leaders, you know, that have fought under these kind of conditions, you know, with life and death, you got to get good because you don't want, you know, death on your hands.
So one of the things that I really liked about the book, and not really necessarily any of the lessons, but the way they told the stories, right? It was so vivid. Like I could almost see it in my head as if I was there, and it really brought light to some of the stuff that they go through and experience.
This book is intense.
It's very intense.
It's very well written. Like it is very well written, and I had to go through it twice, and I might go through it another time. There's so many lessons in here. If you are a leader, you should be reading this.
Yeah, you should multiple times.
Multiple times. It is rock solid.
One of the things that I really liked about this, and you know, I've spent time in Afghanistan and around guys like this, and it was just a reminder, like just like me and you get up and go to work every day, these guys are really going out in firefights every day. Like this is their job. They get up and they go shoot bad guys.
It's like the best of the best.
That's their job.
Yeah.
And it was just
that takes courage and
you gotta have your shit together.
Discipline and all those kind of things that you know, a lot of us are always trying to get better at.
Yep.
But we love this book. This is top notch. This is one of the best. I think I read this at the beginning of last year or whenever it came out and loved it to death. So I give this like A+, 5 stars, 10 stars, whatever the
way
heck
up
it
there.
is.
This is a must read, an absolute must read.
And I did just see Jocko speak live about a week or two ago, and that guy is rock solid, man. He had all the questions down. He made everybody look good with all the questions, and knew it very well. Very polished, great leader. So after seeing that, I was like, I understand why this is so good, because the author, there's two guys, Jocko and
Leif.
Yeah. But we love it. We want to read his other book right now. But once again, I'm Bill Kenny, Josh Gossard. I'm a real estate investor and a Keller Williams agent.
I'm a Keller Williams agent, team leader here in Frederick, Maryland.
Yep. So if you guys like this review, give us a thumbs up. Like us on YouTube, social media. You can find us out there. We'll put our links below. Give us your thoughts. Put any recommendations for books. We're working on a couple recommendations that we got recently. And
thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.